Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Mindy and I have lost over 125 pounds on Wegovy, Mounjaro, semaglutide compound, and I am now back on Wegovy again. If you're new here, welcome. Please consider liking the video and subscribing if you haven't already, because it really helps with the algorithm and the growth of my channel. Today I want to talk to you guys about dessert. If you've been around for a while, you know that I have lost my weight by dieting without any restrictions. Basically, all I do is I count calories, and in the last year and a half or so, I've really started focusing on my protein intake as well. So I do try to make sure that I get at least 30% of my calories from protein sources. But other than that, I pretty much eat what I want. I know that there's a lot of people out there that will tell you that you have to eat low carb on these meds, and that's just not the case. I am a living, breathing, shrinking example of the truth of that matter. Today, I just kind of wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about like how I approach dieting and things like that. I definitely have talked about this on my channel many times before. I went on a full-on rant in this video about the diet industry and how it's basically kept me fat for over 40 years. I just think that there's a lot of fear-mongering surrounding weight loss that's perpetuated by the fitness and diet industry, because the reality is that they don't want you to lose weight, because once you do, then you don't need them anymore. If you know how easy it is to lose weight, how simple the concept itself is, then you don't need their supplements and their workout programs and their whatever it is that they're trying to sell you. I have tried to lose weight millions of times in my life, and I have lost weight millions of times in my life. It's the first time I've approached weight loss with sustainability in mind, where I realized that the only way that I was going to lose the weight and keep it off was by doing it in a way that I could sustain for the rest of my life. And I knew for a fact that I wasn't going to abstain from carbs for the rest of my life. I like pasta too much, I like bread too much, I like ice cream too much, let's be real. I knew from personal experience that even though I was able to drop weight very quickly on a low carb diet, I couldn't really stick with it for more than a couple of months at a time before I would fall off the wagon, eat a cookie, instantly gain 15 pounds, say, screw it, I'm never gonna not eat a cookie again, and then gain all of the weight back. And that went on and on and on for decades with various attempts at weight loss. So I did want to kind of share with you guys a little bit about why it's not a great idea to eat low carb in the long term. I do want to insert a disclaimer here that I am not type 2 diabetic. I do not have any sort of health condition that prohibits me from eating any particular kind of food. So obviously I'm not addressing people who have been told by their dietitian, and I specify dietitian because you would be terrified to learn how little doctors know about nutrition. I have a video about that here. If you're interested in information about how little training doctors actually have about nutrition and things like that. So if you are diabetic, or if you have Hashimoto's or some sort of metabolic disorder, thyroid disorder, or something like that, I highly recommend that you get in touch with an actual registered dietitian to talk to them about what sort of diet you should be following, because there's a good chance that the advice that you're being given by a doctor, even a bariatric doctor, isn't really the best for you long term. Anyway, now that we've got that out of the way, carbohydrates, when broken down in the system, are converted into glycogen, and glycogen is your body's preferred fuel source. It's also your brain's preferred fuel source. It is the only fuel source that can be used by your red blood cells. Now, red blood cells are responsible for transporting oxygen from your lungs to the rest of your body and transporting carbon dioxide from the rest of your body into your lungs so that it can then be expelled out of your body. It's a big part of why people who are on extended low carb diets are often anemic, because their red blood cells can't replicate fast enough because they don't have enough glycogen in their bloodstream. Glycogen also holds on to water molecules. So when you eat a low carb diet and your body rids itself of its glycogen stores, all of that water that's attached to that glycogen leaves your system, which is why when you start a low carb diet, you instantly lose a ton of weight. It's water weight. It's not body fat. There's a big difference between losing body fat and losing weight. I just thought I'd share a little bit of the science behind why carbohydrates are so important for your body. Now, obviously, there's a difference between the types of carbohydrates we eat. There are complex carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates, processed foods, highly processed foods. One of the things that I'm definitely going to start doing is trying to incorporate more fiber into my diet. On a GLP medication, one of the most common and frankly painful side effects is constipation, and fiber content really helps with that. It also helps to keep you full, which is important, and it helps lots of other things in your system as well. I plan on doing a video in the future on fiber. If that's something you're interested in, definitely let me know down in the comments. But for now, I just make sure I get 30% of my calories from protein, and then somewhere between 30 to 40% of my other calories are balanced between carbs and fat, depending on the day. I don't really pay a ton of attention to that. One of the big parts of making my diet sustainable for me when I started was knowing that I have a sweet tooth. I like sweet things. I want sweet things. I crave sweet things. So if I don't plan to have sweet things, then I'm either going to fall headfirst into a pint of Ben and Jerry's, or I'm going to eventually just end up in a bad place. And if you have difficulty with meal planning, definitely check out this video here. I talk through how I approach meal planning and what I do to do my meal plans every week. If you're not somebody that wants to make your own meal plan and you would like to support my content, I send out free meal plans with recipes every week to my members. You can check out my Buy Me a Coffee page for that. I always plan for some sort of sweet treat for me to have at least 4 days a week so that I can stay on track. And I usually make it a higher protein sweet treat because, as we all know, sweet treats usually tons of sugar, lots of carbs. They don't really do a whole lot to keep you full. So if I try to do a higher protein sweet, then I know that that will do more to keep me full and I won't be craving anything else for the rest of the night. There is a recipe on my channel that has a cult following called Strawberry Protein Fluff. I always have that recipe down in the comments below, but I follow a bunch of people on Instagram who specialize in making higher protein, like macro-friendly desserts. And the one that I love more than anyone by far is CheatDayDesign. And he has a YouTube channel as well and an Instagram. I will link all of that down in the description below. But this week, when I stumbled across his high protein s'mores cookies, I knew that that needed to go in my face. So this week, I want to share with you that s'mores cookie and we're going to taste it together. I'm going to enjoy it with a big old glass of high protein, lactose-free milk. Basically Fairlife, but it's H-E-B's version of Fairlife called Moutopia. It's slightly cheaper, barely, but it's just a great way to pack in a little bit more protein. I'm gonna have 2 of these big old cookies and I am so excited about them. Let's go back to yesterday where I threw together the dough to refrigerate overnight so that I could bake them and taste them today.
So we're gonna start this recipe like I always start my baking recipes, with a bowl and a scale, because I don't wanna have to wash measuring cups and I'm an adult. So I do what I want. Anyway, I'm also going to double this recipe because the recipe only makes 6 cookies and they're like 145 calories a piece. So obviously I'm eating 2. So I'm going to double the recipe and my husband will probably have some. So we're going to start with 46 grams of protein powder times 2. And CheatDayDesign always develops his recipes using PE Science, which is a whey casein protein blend. So that's the protein powder that I'm going to use. You can use any whey casein you want, but if you just use whey or just use casein, the texture will not be right. Whey is always really dry, and I just really like the recipes that he develops using this. So we're going to double it. What is that? 92 grams, I think. Math, whatever. And then we're going to follow that up with 90 grams of graham cracker crumbs, which I always seem to have on hand because of a totally not macro-friendly recipe that I make for s'mores bars that has this like homemade graham cracker cookie that is absolutely insanely delicious. But yeah, again, not calorie friendly at all. So I just make it and then I take it to other people's houses and I leave it there so that I don't have to eat it. Pro tip. And then after the graham cracker crumbs, we're going to do 60 grams of a brown sugar substitute. I just use this one from H-E-B. It is an erythritol monk fruit combination because I hate all things stevia and this one works the best for me. I do not notice a difference in flavor between this and normal brown sugar. Is the best, but any monk fruit erythritol blend that you can find, I believe Swerve is a monk fruit erythritol blend. Anyway, just use what you have. And then we're going to do a pinch of salt, which for me is 2 pinches of salt plus a little, because I like extra salt in my baked goods because salt makes everything taste better. I even use salted butter when recipes call for unsalted butter because I'm mineral deficient and I love things salty. So there you go. And it's my kitchen, so I do what I want. Then we're going to use a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. I normally sift the little chunks out, but I was feeling lazy today, so I didn't. And obviously we're gonna mix all those dry ingredients up so that they can get good and combined. And then we're gonna add 4 tablespoons of sugar-free syrup. And I know this stuff is real clumpy looking and weird and gross, but it adds some sweetness and some moisture. And honestly, it doesn't really taste very mapley once you've mixed it into everything, so it works just fine. And then, and this is how you know it's really gonna be good, we're gonna use an entire stick of butter. And I can hear the peanut gallery now. Oh, but Mindy, butter is so fattening, you can't use that. Shh, you're beautiful, it's natural, just let it happen. Add an entire stick of melted butter. So before we add in the chocolate chips and the marshmallows, we're just going to mix together all the wet and dry ingredients to get everything good and combined until it's kind of like moist, like wet sand, you know? And then we're going to do 30 grams of, the recipe calls for chopped milk chocolate. Milk chocolate, not my favorite. It's a little too sweet. I know that like for a s'mores, that's what you use is milk chocolate. But I have, for some reason, an inordinate number of chocolate chips in my house right now. So I'm just going to use what I have, which is semi-sweet chocolate chips. And we're going to do 60 grams. No, we're not going to do 60 grams. We're going to do 30 grams because for some reason my brain doubled and then it doubled again. So we're going to take some of these out because I'm special. And then the last ingredient is 30 grams of mini marshmallows. Yum. You guys, I have been tiptoeing around these lighting things, these lights, this whole time, and I did not have them turned on. I am a professional. Let there be light. Here we go. So then we're gonna fold that together. Fold it in. Just fold it in. I don't even like that show, but that scene is pretty hilarious. They're so mean to each other. I don't know why. Why do they have to be so mean? And then the recipe calls to wrap this in plastic wrap and let it sit in the fridge for an hour. I'm not going to be eating these until tomorrow, so I'm going to let them sit in the fridge overnight. And then as I want to eat them throughout the week, I'm going to take them out, portion them out. I did weigh this, so it's like 39 grams of dough per cookie. And then I will put them on a parchment lined baking sheet, bake them at 325 degrees for 10 minutes. And then you need to let them set for about 15 to 20 minutes just so that the marshmallow doesn't melt your face off and so that they can like firm up a little bit so that you can actually like pick them up and eat them. I have my 2 cookies. Helios is barking at a Pomeranian. Let's see. Smells very Grammy. So I would suggest not leaving them balled up like I did when you put them in the oven because these are very doughy in the middle, which is fine because there's no flour, there's no eggs or anything like that, so it's fine to just eat the dough raw. But I like the texture of the stuff on the outside that's actually baked better than what's on the inside, so I would flatten them out a bit just to make sure that they're, you know, cooked. But all that being said, that's a tasty cookie. Team ice in my milk for the win. You put ice in your milk?
I do.
And it's delicious.
All this being said, while a higher carb diet works well for me because it's sustainable, I know that everyone's dietary needs are different. So just like I'm saying that you don't have to eat low carb to lose weight, you don't have to eat carbs to lose weight either. It's just whatever you choose to do, make it something that you can sustain long term, because ultimately maintenance is going to have to be something that you can maintain long term. So I encourage you not to try to lose weight in a way that you can't eat for the rest of your life, whatever that may look like for you. Thank you so much for joining me today to try out this recipe. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Let me know how you're doing down in the comments. And if you have a favorite high protein dessert, please make sure you share that with us with a link if you can. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.
We're on a journey, looking back on the things that we've taken for granted, but feels like we're learning to be better without what's been holding us back now.